Hello!
Paul, are you busy?
Yeah? A bit, yeah.
Well, I sort of need you to come and help me, mate.
Right now?
Yeah, right now. Right now.
Are you sure?
Well, yeah, I'm up a tree.
You're up a tree?
Yeah, because I've been menaced by, like, scary prehistoric creatures.
What, dinosaurs that don't exist anymore?
Yeah, very raz. I'm up a tree, bud, but can you come and get me, mate?
Alright. Gotta go.
Oh, thanks, mate. Right, see you in a bit. Bye. Thank God for that. The Wookiee's coming to save me.
Steve!
I'm up here, mate.
Steve! Oh.
Shh! Got to be quiet. The dinosaurs, mate. They'll get us.
Have you?
They're all over this place.
Are they?
Yeah.
These ones?
Yeah, they look familiar.
Yeah, they're plastic, aren't they?
Yeah, but look at the teeth on that one that you've got in your right hand.
I don't think it's going to bite me somehow.
Yeah, and you know what they can't do with them little arms? Climb a tree like what I've just done, so there.
Well done, you win. So that's why you're up there, yeah?
Yeah, but there's a bit of a problem, mate.
What?
Two things. One, I'm 60 years old, and two, I'm halfway up a tree, and I'm really not sure how I'm going to get down. Why don't you just do the car this week, mate? Go on.
Yeah, alright. Catch you later.
A massive flashback. It's 1994 and I'm driving a Jeep Wrangler YJ 4 litre high output straight 6 engine part-time 4-wheel drive through Bury, Lancashire, and 30 years on I'm doing exactly the same thing. Wow. It's powerful nostalgia, isn't it, Paul?
It is, although I can't relate to it because I've never driven one.
Well, I had one for a year. It's a bit noisy because it's got a stainless steel exhaust system that's been fitted because it's 30 years old. The Jiggly Ride is back. I remember this Jiggly Ride. My kids were young when we had one of these. Well, we had two. I had one of these, the Safari, with this kind of green and tan. I'm not sure why dark green would be. You'd be on a safari, wouldn't you? You'd be on a jungle safari, like Christopher Biggins and Gillian Tailforth. Hey, we're a bit like Christopher Biggins and Gillian Tailforth, aren't we? They were big in the 90s, them two.
Yeah.
I remember on safari.
Or a beige one, so it fits in the savannah.
Yeah, you could get this. I think that colour. Wow, isn't it weird how we can't remember important things, but we can remember utter trivia? I think that sandy colour was actually called moonstone. Yeah?
Yeah.
People like us arguing, like bickering, like we're like Stadler and Waldorf. They were big in the 90s, weren't they? Do you remember?
No, I don't.
On the Muppet Show.
I don't want to talk about big in the 90s anymore.
Stadler and Waldorf.
Was that the Muppet Show?
Those two guys in the box.
Oh yeah, that was the best bit.
It's time to meet the Muppets on the Muppet Show tonight. I didn't understand why Kermit was kind of in charge. Do you know who reminds me of Kermit?
Carl Sagan.
That's a good one, Carl Sagan. Tom Hanks reminds me of Kermit. He's got the same demeanour, hasn't he? He's the same sort of character. He's the central character. But of course, you know who Tom Hanks was being. You know who Tom Hanks has based his whole career on, don't you?
Is it Stan Laurel?
No, it's not Stan Laurel. It's Jimmy Stewart. Tom Hanks just does and has done throughout his entire career as an actor an impression of Jimmy Stewart, based on the fact that Jimmy Stewart was one of the most popular film actors in America. You know, like It's a Wonderful Life and The Flight of the Phoenix. Do you remember The Flight of the Phoenix where they crashed their aeroplane and they had to make another aeroplane? And Jimmy Stewart had to keep it secret that the plane designer had only ever actually designed like toy planes. But it still flew at the end. Oh, plot spoiler! Terrible plot spoiler. Actually, we should... It's quite apposite that I'm banging on about movies, isn't it? Because we're in this Jurassic Park replica Jeep Wrangler YJ 4 litre, very, very light steering. The person that's built this replica has gone to extraordinary lengths, including fitting the special BF Goodrich all-terrain tyres that were on the cars in the movie that were based on...
I hope that smell's coming from outside.
What smell?
That smell that obviously you can't smell.
I can smell muck. But
Yeah.
we're in the countryside, Paul.
You don't
Can you
know.
not tell? Look how steep this road is.
It's very steep actually, yeah.
Brook Bottom Cricket Club.
Click it.
There's a lot of places around here that have got bottom in their name.
Yeah.
Do you know who used to live here?
You.
Will Young.
There is such a thing as going too far with
If
these
you're
things.
called Will Young, do not move to a place called Ram's Bottom. He did! It's nominative determinism again. A bloke brought a Rover SDI. You know the SDI, the one that looks like a Ferrari.
Yeah, the SD1.
The SDI, I call it. I love going on YouTube and correcting people saying, I think you'll find it's called the SDI for injection. And they lose their shit. They lose their shit. They do. It's mental. This is technically Bury. Oh, look how lovely it is. They shoot a lot of period dramas up here.
Oh yeah,
Because it's near Manchester. You can get here in half an hour, 40 minutes. And they've actually got up here some streets of actual back-to-back houses. And live on Radio 5, I corrected Annabelle Hesseltine, daughter of a then government minister, on what a back-to-back house is. She thought that the ones on Coronation Street are back-to-back. And of course, Paul, you wouldn't make such a ridiculous, stupid mistake, would you?
Oh, definitely not.
The truth in a back-to-back house, as you'll see in a moment, is that you share... It's one building. It's not rows of terraced housing.
Right, back to the car.
Back to the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to... I mean, right, look at this for starters. Right, those are the windscreen wipers. Look, can you imagine if you paid like big dollar and then that's your windscreen? Look how ineffective it is. Look how utterly rubbish it is. I mean, it doesn't really work, does it? That's clearly made it worse, if anything else, hasn't it?
Well, you can see through that bit.
Yeah, and it's a flat windscreen. Why? Because it's a Jeep, so it should have a flat windscreen so it can fold flat. Do you know why? You know why, don't you?
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, so you can fold it flat.
So you can kill people when you're driving. That's what it was for. There's no good having shooting through the blinking windscreen. You folded the windscreen flat so that when you saw Helmet and Goebbels or whoever it was, you could,
Just shoot them through the
you
gap.
could give them what for. Because the Jeep, the original Jeep, alongside the Harley Davidson 45, the American military motorcycle, they would have been used by scouts. And by that, I don't mean young boys who go to a church hall to learn how to do knots and how to identify different kinds of fern, like fern Britain or name another fern. Fern cotton.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, scouts that went ahead of the main fighting force using either the Liberator, the Harley Davidson WLA 45, the side valve V-twin military bike, or more than likely a Jeep with 4 handy lads in it. How noisy is it? I mean, you get up to we're doing 30.
Well, it's a
Right?
bit like being in a Land Rover,
In
isn't it?
third gear, 30 miles an hour.
Ooh, that is noisy, yeah.
Yeah, it's noisy. But I like it. That's the sound of freedom, Paul.
What, noise?
Noise! We're now doing 40 miles an hour.
It feels like that's all it's got.
What do you mean that's all it's got?
It feels like that's all
It's
it's
got
got.
190 brakes horsepower,
You wouldn't know.
235 feet-pounds of torque, lots of torques, high-speed manual gearbox, selectable low ratio and selectable four-wheel drive on 2 levers that are down there.
It's making the kind of noises I've never heard in a car before.
That is a jiggly ride on these leaf springs, isn't it?
It is.
imagine if you'd spent it. I was going to say, there's not really a car offered by anyone, anywhere in the world like this anymore, but there is. Do you know what you can still buy? New. Not one of these, not a mid-90s YJ Jeep Wrangler.
Not
obviously the new Wrangler, which is 70 grand, is a very different vehicle. It's much more like a 21st century SUV. This isn't an SUV, it's a bloody Jeep. It's different. Proper. I like it.
So,
the one that you could buy that's like this, you could still buy a Lada Niva brand new.
not in this
Brand
country,
new.
you can't.
Yeah, you can.
Can you?
You can, yeah. Somebody's bringing them in. You can buy a Niva brand new. And that was very much the Soviet equivalent of this car.
How would a Lada Niva get through all the regulations that we're bombarded with?
I'm telling you, you can buy a Lada Niva brand new in the UK now. And that makes my heart glad, because I love the Niva.
Would you have one?
Yeah, absolutely. They're great. Oh, mate, I drove 4,500 miles from here, Bury, Lancashire, to Banjul in the Gambia with my friend Paul. Not you, my friend Paul. In fact, you've got a very similar look, the pair of you. Perhaps I'm just looking for people who look like Wookiees called Paul.
Maybe.
To accompany me on my many adventures. We had a great adventure, and Len, our lovely Lada, the Soviet equivalent of this, although the difference being there that Len is of unitary construction, the Lada Niva.
But
yeah,
that's fairly good timing, because it means I can ask you a question.
You're going to ask me a question, not about the excellent documentary that I made about the World War II military Jeep, are you, Paul? Which is why I've got so much ready information about these vehicles, which I can just plug from the old brain.
Yeah, but
not that.
If you like, yeah, but no, that's not what I was going to ask you.
Because I've driven an amphibious Jeep, a Seep, and I've driven...
This one was amphibious a minute ago.
The only four-wheel steer one that's left in existence. They made 3. There's one left, and it's owned by a chap from Birmingham. Well, not Birmingham, Alabama, Paul. A bloke from Birmingham. Yeah, he's got it, called Fred, and he let me have a drive of it, and it was amazing. 4-wheel steer. It could turn in its own length, which, if you were fighting war, think how useful that'd be. What if you were like trying to kill some other people, but there were like loads of them, and you thought, oh, this is bad. In the old 4-wheel steer one, you could just turn around and keep going. He let me do it. I said, can I do like a full speed turnaround? And he went, yeah, go on. And I did, and it was amazing. But do you know why they didn't make it? And again, it's a very American way of thinking when it comes to making, or what the American way of thinking used to be. I think they make world cars now. I don't. Ask me what it was about the 4-wheel steer one that meant they didn't make it.
What was it about the 4-wheel steer one that meant they didn't make it?
It was too complex. And they
too
like
expensive.
to keep... No, it's not expense. It's with the Americans, it's never about expense. It's about complexity. And if it was too complex, then as a military vehicle, it couldn't be fixed by regular GIs in the field. And as a civilian vehicle, it would be, well, what does he call him? Clem. That's what Jay Leno says, doesn't it? Clem. Jay Leno always says, in the 50s, when somebody turned up with a Maserati at their local garage in Kansas, Clem struggled to understand the complexities of its Superleggera body construction and its quad-cam dual-like V8 engine. The Americans kept things simple. Big V8s with a single massive carburetor, drum brakes, leaf springs. They kept old, tried and trusted technology going for a lot longer than we did in Europe. And there was a reason for that, because in America, if things don't work, you get sued and you go out of business. It's not like here where Alfa Romeo would use their customer base in the absence of a research and development department. They just let the people who bought them work out what was wrong with it. You can't do that in America. You can't. That is the fastest way to the bankruptcy courts. Anyway, if you're going to ask me a question, Paul, I'm wondering what it was.
Well, I forgot what it is now.
Was it about celebrity owners?
Oh, there's a point. Which celebrity would you imagine to have one of these?
Steve Berry off of Top Gear.
That was
because
easy.
I did. And I'll tell you what, mate, right?
doing it again.
I am having a massive nostalgia rush in this car today because I've never really told this story, but I'm going to tell it now. I served a 6-month driving ban while I was a Top Gear presenter. Hey, remember the workmate? Of course you do. Only from Black & Decker. Yeah, that was me. Well, now, new and of equal use to middle-aged men who've essentially lost the joy of life, then fuck that, mate. Now, as we age, many of us cling to youthful pastimes like motorbikes, racing cars, loud instruments like the drums and the electric guitar. But all of those things are time-consuming, expensive, and potentially dangerous. So, with the fuck that, mate, you have all the joy of talking about doing those things without ever actually having to do them. We'll send you a broken motorbike, a broken racing car, or a broken electric guitar. We guarantee that it will not work and cannot be fixed. And you can talk about doing it, but when somebody asks you, you just say, oh, fuck that, mate. After 6 months, we'll come round and take it away and give it to somebody else so that they can talk about it. Well, you can get up to all those things you actually want to do, like eating biscuits or sitting next to a swimming pool with a colourful drink with an umbrella in it. The fuck that, mate. Only from Ronco, a world of biscuit company. Now back to the car. If you look on YouTube, the proof is there because somebody's put up all the old 90s videos and of Top Gear. And if you look, there's a time in the mid to late 90s when I used to do all the voiceovers at the beginning and the end, like this week on Top Gear, Quentin tells you which Japanese 5-door family car has got the best residuals. Jeremy's wearing a thin tie and one of those sheepskin flying jackets and looks like B.A. Robertson. And I'm in Holland, and I'm in Korea, or I'm in Japan, wherever. I was always somewhere that wasn't the UK for a whole series because I was banned from driving, right? And I went to do some filming in Matlock, Bath, which is a popular bikers meeting place in Derbyshire. And my ban expired at midnight on the Saturday night of that weekend. And I had my 4-litre Jeep Wrangler delivered. I got banned for speeding on like accumulated points. You know, it wasn't anything terrible. It was, I mean, some people would say, oh yeah, speeding or whatever, but anyway, it wasn't anything worse than that, just in case anybody thinks, oh, what do you get banned for? That, right? I had my new 4-litre Jeep Wrangler delivered to the hotel, and at midnight I went out and drove it, and it felt so good. I'll never forget that. Why don't we just not bother with girls? Look at us, all we ever do is drive around together in soft top cars. It's obvious that we're gay. Wow, I am having a powerfully nostalgic rush. Not different, I should imagine, to that experienced by the users of recreational drugs, which neither myself nor my hairy Wookiee colleague would possibly know what that feels like. Paul, I can't tell you how much fuss these headlights caused in the Jeep community. Because previously all Jeeps had round headlights, and after the YJ they had round headlights. But they thought, let's be bold, let's be radical, let's be revolutionary, let's have rectangular headlights. But they didn't go too mad because we've still got solid axles, and if you come here and have a look, leaf spring suspension. Yes, like a horse and buggy from the 19th century. Leaf spring suspension. But more than any car made in America, this car represents an American way of thinking in automobile construction. And admirably, here's a fact for you about the Jeep Wrangler. It has the lowest dust to dust. Do you know what dust to dust means, Paul?
I'm going to be honest and just say no.
Okay, I'll tell you very quickly. Right, so when you're calculating the impact that a vehicle has on the environment, if you're daft and angry and a teenager, and there's nothing wrong with being a daft, angry teenager, you might think that what you need to concentrate on is what comes out of that pipe there, right? But that's only part of the story. What you need to think about is how much energy and how many resources were expanded in creating this vehicle. How long does it have in its working life as a useful means of transport to get people from A to B with their stuff? And what happens to it when it's all done and finished with and you have to get rid of it? And if you go dust to dust, i.e. from somebody signing it off to say, yeah, make one of those, to it actually being recycled at the end of its life, the lowest impact on the environment, dust to dust, Jeep Wrangler. This one's 30 years old. Do you think it's going anywhere? Do you think anybody's going to get rid of it? Do you think it's done? This car, and it is a car, it'll see us out easily. Because the thing about these is, right, say you've got a rusty door. Say this half door is rusty. You undo that strap and you just undo that, lift the door off, get another door, put the other door on. Say you bash this wing when you are off-roading. You get under there, you unbolt it, 20 minutes later you bolted another one on. Same with virtually everything. This is still, in the mid-90s, body on chassis. It's not unitary, it's proper, right? It's a proper off-roader. It's got the only difference between this car and the ones that were in the Jurassic Park movie. By the way, Paul, what was the... let's see if even Paul can get this. Right, Paul, what was the first movie that generated $1 billion in income?
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, well done, mate.
Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah.
Honestly. Right, yeah, Jurassic Park. The only difference between this car and the ones that are in the Jurassic Park movie, Jurassic Edition, it wouldn't have had that, I don't think, in the movie. Maybe it did. Don't think so.
No.
But it would have had that number. And the owner specifically wanted number 18 because she wanted the one that Laura Dern's character. I like the one, I remember the one, do you remember Newman off Seinfeld? You don't watch telly, do you, Paul?
I don't even know what it is.
Seinfeld was the biggest TV show in the world back in the 90s. Do you know what the biggest factual TV show in the world is, according to the Guinness Book of Records, Wookie? Go on, have a guess.
QI.
QI! Top Gear, you mentalist. It's in Guinness Book of Records, Top Gear. Not when I was on it, but Top Gear. Anyway, it's got the winch. It's got the winch. Some of them had a light bar on the top with remote controlled lights, so that in that bit where Newman out of Seinfeld, Wayne, whatever his name is, he'll always be Newman. I mean, talk about typecast. Newman out of Seinfeld, that's typecast on an entirely different level. That guy is Newman out of Seinfeld for the rest of his days. It's lifted, you might have noticed that. It's got a 1.5 inch lift on it. Why replace standard with standard? So when the springs wore out, the leaf springs, performance leaf springs and a lift kit to give it 1.5 inches, because it does go off-road, and when the exhaust rotted out, a stainless steel performance exhaust. Part-time four-wheel drive, when it's fully engaged, you've got a way of engaging low ratio and four-wheel drive, sort of on the fly. You don't have to, there's no like locking hubs and all that carry on. You just do it by a system of levers, or levers, as the people that made it would undoubtedly say. Toledo, Ohio, they made this, Paul, by the way. This is great for me because for the first time, big in the 90s, Paul, we've got a car that I actually own. I had one of these and it 10,000 miles in it. I used to drive my 4 litre Wrangler on the motorway. Nobody did that. People just used to like waft around in them, like looking super cool. I had a hard top as well. I had the soft top, and for winter I had a hard top. And people used to say to me, is it not a bit noisy? Is it not a bit uncomfortable? The heater's not very good. Yeah, but I'm used to motorbikes. So she's used to motorbikes. So compared to a motorbike, the heater's really good. Yeah, compared to a motorbike, it's really quiet inside. Compared to a motorbike, it's really comfortable. You used to motorbike, this is luxury. I love these bumpers, look at them. I always like them. See, here's the thing, that's why, again, I'll say it, that's why this is such, you wouldn't think so, would you, with a 4 litre AMC derived straight six, 200 horsepower or thereabouts engine. You would think, oh yeah, it's really eco, it's really green. But look, right, I've got a problem with a car of mine at the moment. It's almost a late 90s car. It just trips into the 21st century. I can't get a back bumper for it. I can't get a back bumper anywhere with this car. Look at the back bumper on one of these. It's just a bit of metal. It's just a bit of steel. If that got trashed, you could just get anyone to well, not anyone, obviously not anyone, not my mother, but you know, the Wookiee could do it. You could just bend a bit of steel and you'd have a bumper. You get one like this. I had a look again online at some used ones, and between 5 and 15 grand, depending on condition and the amount of kit. A lot of them have had a lot of money spent on them, like lift kits and light bars and uprated engines and winches that cost as much as many used cars on the front. Quite why you'd use it, I don't know. They're not, I mean, look at the front. This is the point of entry, right? As off-roaders would say. There's not that much ground clearance there, is there? And that is the front of the spring. It's not like that's a cosmetic item. That is where the front leaf spring's mounted. You can't move that. So you've not got, it's not really a serious off-roader, sorry. They can be, if you spend tens of thousands of pounds, dollars, euros, whatever, yen on them. He said, unsure of the yen exchange rate when he said that. I think this is the gayest car we've had so far, Paul, do you know? Me and you in that car. Do you not think? The rubbish is the daily. Now, 30 years on driving it, it is noisy, it is uncomfortable, the ride's jiggly, the steering is ridiculously light, massively over-assisted. Looking at the character and considering the character sort of big and rugged and like broad shoulders and barrel-chested, and then you get in and it's like fingertip light steering. That might be a symptom of those tyres with the lift and all the other stuff that's just making it feel like that. But look at it. A Jeep. It's like the Mini, the Citroen DS, the Beetle. I'm going for the top 5 ever. The Tri-Chevy, 55, 56, 57 Chevy, and the Jeep. The Jeep. That is like the original Jeep, isn't it? When you look at that, the image in your head, freedom, World War II, General MacArthur, Patton, the Battle of the Bulge, you know, winning wars. Classic Jeep. Love it! God bless America! So yeah, what celebrity would have one of these? Me.
Or Richard Hammond.
No! No.
Yeah, that's how...
Mate, he had a Fiat Barchetta when I had my Jeep Wrangler. He had one of those puntos in a party frock, a Fiat Barchetta. That's what he had.
But I think Hammond would have one of these for the opposite reason that other people would. He'd have one and keep it secret. He wouldn't have one to pretend he likes it. I reckon he'd like it, but not let you know that he likes it.
It's too butch.
It's too butch for Hammond.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's it. He's a secret
lemonade drinker.
he's a secret heterosexual.
Look at this.
Those, Steve, are called ducks. If you catch one, you can eat it.
Wow.
Rather frothy down there, isn't
What, in like plum sauce or something like that?
it? Yeah.
Which ones taste the best, the girls or the boys? What do you reckon?
I don't know. Let's have one of each.
Why do people do that?
What?
If there's a wasp in the car, they start swerving all over the road trying to get away from the wasp. Do you know what's worse than being stung by a wasp? Crashing your car at speed. Perhaps into somebody else's car head on, but oh yeah, at least I didn't get stung by a wasp. What is wrong with people? Right, now I think I've been too nice about this vehicle because loads of people have just been massively put off by how noisy and uncomfortable and all the other things that are just wrong with it, even though I love it. Here's why we got rid of it. Here's why we traded. Look at that, right? So you're me, it's the mid-90s, you've got 2 kids going on 3 kids. I think we swapped at 2 and another one came along. And really it was just because we couldn't really take one. If me and the missus, the former Mrs. Berry, and the kids were on the back seat, that was how much luggage space we've got. And anyone watching this who's ever been in that situation will know that that is unacceptable. I mean, we couldn't even go to a big shop. Do you know what I mean? We had to go to Tesco 3 times a week because our trunk space was so tiny. Unless you wanted the kids like sat there like cradling a baguette and the other one's got like a family-sized box of bran flakes or whatever. So we got a Cherokee, Jeep Cherokee. And it was good, but it wasn't nearly as cool as this, and it wasn't nearly as much fun. But that's what happens when you have kids, isn't it? You stop being cool and you turn into Mr. Dad, and you get a big belly on you. Because when the kids are eating, you eat, so they'll eat and all that, and then you and the missus have something, and then you have a bottle of wine, and then you look at yourself in the mirror and you think, oh my God. Well, not you, obviously. No, Paul, please, I don't want to be mean to anybody. Just because I'm like a perfect vision of a man, it's probably unfair for me to... When I was a dad, I got a big old tum on me because that's what happens when you're a dad. You stop being cool because you can't smoke about in something like this because it's impractical. And that's kind of the point of like sports cars, motorbikes, they're impractical, aren't they? So when you see somebody going by, you think, footloose and fancy free, that fella or woman.
Never did I think I would be filming a 60-year-old man climbing a tree.
We're in the tree climbing business.
Always trying to prove himself.
But I think we're proving a point.
It's come down from the tree and now I've insisted he goes back up there.
What?
Just so we can film a bit more cruelly.
Oh, Steven Spielberg's done another film. Quick, to work everybody, do a John Williams soundtrack. Swirling music, danger music, dun, 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 dun. And then like, I mean, how good was Bob Peck in Jurassic Park? Bob Peck, Edge of Darkness, Bob Peck. You know Bob Peck, Edge of Darkness?
No!
The guy who goes, oh, you're a clever one, or something like that, just before it bites his head off. The one who wears a hat that's turned up on one side.
Guess what?
Like Steve Irwin. And like Steve Irwin, got offed by nature. Poor Steve, I'm sure he was a lovely man, but he who lives by the thing with big scary teeth and venom dies by the big scary teeth with venom.
Yeah.
I remember we went on holiday with another family and their kids got bitten by the farm dog, but my kids didn't get bitten because my kids have been told very specifically never to go up to strange dogs and mither them on account of the fact that they probably get bitten. Mither's a northern term.
Mither, yes.
It means interfere with without any reason. So I remember my daughter, she was 8 at the time, and she came back and she went, yeah, the farm dog bit the other two, like that, as if to say, but it didn't bite us, because guess what we didn't do? Just bowl up to it. But that's what television does, doesn't it? It convinces people that instead of being afraid of nature, they should be like, oh, nature, isn't it lovely? I love animals, me. I don't love animals. I like the tasty ones. And I like my dogs and my cats. Apart from that, not that keen. Horses, I love them. I love to see them in fields running around. They're beautiful. Quite why people want to climb up on them when they clearly do not want to be climbed up on. Look at them throwing them guardsmen off in London. It's happening all the time. Do you know why? Because they don't want a big monkey on their back. And they've got a tiny, tiny brain, horses. They're beautiful, but they've got a teeny, tiny little brain. And they think, oh, what's that on my back? And they just, but they're immensely powerful. So they just throw you off. I think people who climb up on them should get thrown off. The closest thing you can get on 4 wheels to a Harley Davidson, one of these. It's got that same appeal, do you not think, Paul? It just says USA, USA, in a good way, all the good things. Yes, there are bad things about America, but there are lots and lots of good things. And one of those good things is and was, because it's still around, and I looked at the prices, and if you want a Wrangler, now, have a guess, Paul, for the 4-door. Most of the Wranglers, they now sell a 4-door. And to me, right, I'm going to be controversial, and if you don't like it, I couldn't give a f***. He'll bleep that out. Although he did forget to bleep an F-bomb out in the last one, I was quite shocked. I thought, I can't be having swearing on these videos, my mother watches them. Most of the ones they sell now are 4 doors. That's not a Wrangler to me. A Wrangler's a 2-door car. It's a 2-door car. And in fact, a 2 half-door car. It looks so great with these half doors. You just look the
So
biz.
it's a 1-door car?
You just look the biz when you're wazzing round in one of these. I think so anyway. Me and Paul are always swanning about, aren't we? Yeah. That is Elton Reservoir, right, in Bury, Lancashire. Not only the home of Laurie Smith, who, believe it or not, came from such humble beginnings, and that is humble. Elton Raz in Bury became the captain of the UK Olympic sailing team. Can you imagine how that rubbed some people up the wrong way? That was nearly as bad as me being on Top Gear and people writing letters in capitals, all caps and green ink. Who is this northern monkey that you've allowed onto BBC Two? Yeah, Laurie Smith learned to sail on here. It's like a big bath, really, isn't it? It's also the location, or one of the locations, of my attempt at the world record for using the most means of transport. 101 in a week, since you ask. One of them being, and I did it here, a semi-submersible one-man submarine used by the US military, used by the Marines. The problem was, when I got here, they didn't have a wetsuit or a dry suit. I'm never sure of the difference between a wetsuit and a dry suit. Paul, do you know the difference? Aren't they the same thing, essentially?
I think so, yeah.
Like flammable and inflammable. It's like an insulating layer that you wear against it being very cold. They didn't have one that would fit me. I mean, I'm a pretty standard size. I'm not like the Wookiee. It's not like I'm a weird size. Anyway, they didn't have one that fit me. So I just stripped down to my undies for the sake of, like, you know, saving time. Now, for another reason, due to the cameraman not being available on that weekend, on that evening, my missus was filming it. And she's got a very dry sense of humour, my missus. She'd have to, wouldn't she? And when the bloke said that I had to tether it to me and I had to take the belt out of my jeans and put it on, so picture the scene. I'm stood here in the gloaming wearing just a pair of Calvin Klein's and a leather belt. And I looked at her and I knew she was thinking something. And I said, what is it? She said, nothing. I said, no, come on, spit it out. What is it? She said, it's nothing, don't. I said, what is it? And she went, I don't think we're ever having sex again. I just want to take this top off. It takes forever to take the top off. And take this off and just run round in half doors, fold the windscreen flat. Me and Paul put our sunglasses on and drive around Bury styling. Yeah, looking for ladies or fellas or whatever comes our way.